Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Stellar Toad, and today I'm going to talk about autopilot and conscientious thinking. So, autopilot is not useless. I don't know why I have to stretch every time I try to make a video. Your brain develops everything that humans do, even unconscious things, for a reason. And I'll give you an example. The reason autopilot exists, in one case, is because if you were to have to focus on every step that you made, you would be trying to balance with your arms, and you'd be walking around like a toddler that didn't know how to walk. Or if you didn't use autopilot for the format of your house, you would have to think about every turn that you made just to get to a certain room, and it wouldn't work. Autopilot is useful for the third dimension, but it's not useful for anything involving thought or the mind. And it doesn't work in some areas of the third dimension, but mostly those are tied into thought and the fourth dimension also. So, the most broad area where autopilot is totally useless is in thought. The way that most people use autopilot in their own thought is to come to a thesis about reality based on what they were told when they were little. And when they don't actually think about the factors that they're including in their thesis, it doesn't end up making sense to a conscious person in the end result. So just think about all the facts or fake facts that you're including in the way that you think about reality, because they might be false. So, like religious people, most of the time they'll believe what they're told in their church or whatever kind of holy building that they are a part of by whatever person is teaching. But okay, that I'm using too much of a broad spectrum here, and it's making me have to think about how I'm wording everything. So I'm just going to use church as an example. Someone who goes to church, most of the time, they believe what their pastor tells them. They use that in their life, and they think that's just how it is in the actual Bible. But it's not most of the time. Most of the time, the pastor has it wrong. Most of the time, the pastor was on autopilot with their pastor, and they're just carrying on a false message that started with someone not paying attention to what they were reading in the Bible, and then they were starting a church. So, yeah. Using that as an example, that's a good example of autopilot. They're using autopilot for spirituality, which is useless. So, a conscientious person would actually read the Bible and come to their own conclusion, knowing that it can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. So, basically, the main idea of being conscious is actually questioning what you're told and what you were told when you were little and believed because, you were little and you didn't think about it. So, yeah. And a good way to spot things that might be false is using intuition. But again, autopilot of the mind does get in the way of using intuition, so that might not work. But if you have the ability to actually use your own intuition on what feels aligned with the truth and what doesn't, then you might be able to sift out the wheat from the chaff. There. Surprisingly, I did not say that because of a Bible phrase, but actually because I was watching a video about cereal. So yeah. Anyway. So autopilot in your mind makes you not make any sense. That's not to say that it doesn't make any sense because it's not orderly. It doesn't make any sense because it's just not the actual way reality is at this point, or this dimension. Well, maybe it is in this dimension and not in another dimension. So it depends on what viewpoint you're looking at it from. But actually, that's the most, for the most part, that's all I had to really say about that. Oh, and actually, that's not all I had to say about that, because another form of autopilot that is somewhat between the mind and the not mind, or the body, is your surroundings. So you might become accustomed to the way things look around you, and the way that your own home is formatted, or the way that your dojon or dojo is formatted, and then you fail to realize really small details. I remember what I'm about to talk about, but I'm not sure that you do, or if it even was the case in your own childhood. But when I was really little, when I saw something, or when I saw my own house, my mind was kind of blown because of all the little details that I knew about it, like the texture of the carpet, or the way the paint on the walls was all bumpy and you could see patterns in it. So yeah, like little things like that, when you put that on autopilot, it takes away how kind of amazing things really are. So that kind of takes the fun out of the world, and that's not good. So that's another situation where autopilot is useless. The way you can separate this out is anything that involves your own mind, autopilot should not be involved in. But things that involve the physical world, autopilot can be involved in. Because you don't want to have to think about every step, and you don't want to have to think about frying up some food. You don't have to want to, like, take the pan, put the spatula this way, then this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, in a certain order, because that is really, that's useless behavior. So autopilot's useful for some things. That's all I had to say. Leave a like, subscribe, comment. Yeah, this is Stellar Toad. I hope you enjoyed the video. Goodbye.